And for a more in-depth look at how the World Bank and the AIIB might work together, CCTV's Jessica Stone spoke with Andrew Karolyi. He's a professor of finance at Cornell University, and she started by asking him how the banks differ.
The AIIB has this infrastructure mandate specifically, and it has a very strong Asian focus. And you can imagine that the thrust of those initiatives, that mandate, is going to imply a lot of focused types of investments. Now, that, of course, intersects with the mandate of the World Bank and the IFC in terms of promoting those types of major project finance, infrastructure-related projects. My prediction, for what it is joint between those two institutions, of capital for those kinds of projects, particularly the ones where they have shared and common interests. You can also, again, imagine that there will be, projects that will seek opportunities out from either one or the other. You might even imagine some governments that are promoting certain kinds of infrastructure projects, dams, offshore types of development projects, will be maybe trying to stoke up a little competition between them to achieve better terms and conditions on the loans that they do secure. So on that level, I would see that's kind of healthy to see that kind of competition.
I guess I wonder, do you think that China is making headway? Where does it go in terms of getting more of a voice at the World Bank for China?
This is not a question of if, but rather when, as far as
How soon do you think we're looking at?
Sorry?
So then I guess I would just ask you when, how soon are we talking about?
You know, there's the sort of the details in terms of the regularity of the cycles when the committee meets to decide whether to change or adjust or introduce a new currency into the SDR basket. It may not be in the 2015 cycle, but it may be in the 2016 cycle. But I think the lead-in from your question, from the earlier discussion we have, is probably salient. The fact is that China is making moves with respect to alternative opportunities like the AIIB, and goodness gracious, IMF and World Bank are taking notice of this. And they are undoubtedly going to feel some of the pressures from those types of activities towards maybe accelerating the admission of the RMB into the SDR basket faster than otherwise.
Well, this year's meetings, obviously, being in South America, just shows the attention that part of the world is getting from the World Bank and really where it's come in terms of the global economy. So, when we're talking about the BRICS overall, you think about Brazil, and maybe do you think Brazil is taking notes here on how China sort of maneuvered more of an influence both at the World Bank, but then setting up this alternative lending mechanism?
The challenge of Brazil, certainly this year and currently, is enormous. There is a lot of political and economic turmoil in the country. The economy is slowing. Capital markets are suffering from receding capital, global capital. It may not be Brazil's time right now, let's just say, for them to present such an opportunity. But I wouldn't put it past them, as they recover from this current down phase.
I want to get one question into you, and that is just overall the World Bank's ability to get capital amid the slowdown in these emerging markets. What do you think that's going to look like? What are the tactics they need to employ?
Well, I think their funding base is pretty solid for the most part. They have this massive lending program. It's global in scope. A lot of the operations are funded by the proceeds from those loans, they've been around for a long time, and they're well seated and reasonably well capitalized. But the challenges define the shortfall, right? So the leadership of the World Bank has defined some very, very ambitious goals for alleviating and mitigating poverty around the world, and this costs money. And so while I recognize that the funding base of the World Bank is pretty secure and solid, they probably would need more to achieve many of those goals and or tamp down the ambitious nature of those goals. It is an enormous challenge for the World Bank. that the current leadership has put before them. You know, maybe, just maybe, some of these alternative development banks with regional focuses and regional mandates may be those which can fill in the gaps where the World Bank falls short towards the same common objectives.